Good afternoon to all the bright minds. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Friends, today in the next hour or so, I want to express in simple terms why the practice of the teachings of our age-old Indian wisdom will translate in the true you. And again, I do not uh, I'm not implying that anybody is a false you, but I want to lead you to a few concepts where about ego and living with the self and how that leads to deep, meaningful lives. The reason being my energy I like spending with students and the youth, the present. Uh, People like us are in the past. I mean, we have had our glory days, and now we are facing out in the sunset. And the generations to follow are the future, but they will be the present. Yeah, in the coming future. And why that is important is the whole philosophy of the the Advaitic way of living is that only the now, the present, is is where life is to be lived. Everything that happened before is the past. Anything that will happen, the present can take care of. And I'm going to start, and then I will, you can feel free to interrupt me anytime as we go along. So, eternal happiness by discovering the true you. This is Sri Ramana Maharshi. He was born in 1879 in Tiruchuri, Tamil Nadu, and he attained self realization at the age of 16 through a unique death experience. And afterwards, the age of 17, he came to the sacred Arunachala hill and guided seekers through silence grace for the next 54 years. He did not move from the place. And this is the sacred hill of Arunachala. So, and this is the entrance to Sri Ramanasramam. And I invite each one of you, if you ever uh, are passing by, to please come and spend time there. Now, the practice of self inquiry or Atma Vichara is not attaining anything new, but it is in fact is uncovering, and it's a process of shedding and unlearning. As you know, even the modern day, even in your lives, they say in this age of AI and this learning, uh, learning, they say, is no longer just learning and learning. They say it's learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning. You're going to unlearn so many concepts so quickly. I'll just give you a personal example. You know, as a physician in the 80s, uh, the half life of a medical information, that is, when you suppose you read something and then you did not touch your books and then you became obsolete, was around 23 years. 23 years. So you could get gray hair and just have a decent career by just looking very professional. I know, while losing your sharpness. Friends, today, my colleagues in the West and in India, the half life is 6 months to a year. So, so I really feel for you, your generation. You are going to enter a world which is going to be both exciting and scary. For whatever you learn, could become obsolete very quickly. So, and uh, and as you know, the Greek philosophers used to say the only constant in life is change. The only constant in life is change. But today, I also want you to introduce you to a bigger constant, which will guide you through this changing world, and that is your inner self, or in Tamil we call it the Ullam or the Atman. So, and that is going to be there while your external shapes, your forms will change. You'll get titles, you'll go from junior engineer to junior managers and to have your own company. But when that may change, but the only constant is the inner you and the true you. And that's what we're going to see how with philosophy we could uh, get a feel for that. And the earlier you start, as you know, the better it gets. And it's at this age you're all like sponges. You will soak up every information, and hopefully this will be useful at some stage in your life. So Ramana Maharshi said that this path is an illusion, while the awakening to the self. The journey itself revealed that what we truly believe as true is an illusion. It's called Maya in the Indian terms. There was never a seeker or a goal. And he said, as we go along, we'll understand. There is no attainment here, no seeker, no path. All we are going to discover is the one fundamental truth, or one fundamental truth, that is the self, or the Atman, or some of you who read Western philosophy and all, consciousness, which is the new source of research for everybody in the West. Now, as we go along, I'm going to say how the is useful for you. This practice of these teachings lead to better mental health and stress reduction. As you know, friends, as the modern day life increases stress, anxiety, and depression, as most of you are in the social media and generation, you suffer from a rapidly changing world. And even though you're surrounded by material prosperity, there is still a lot of shallow relationships. There's a feeling of unseen majority, especially in the West. And this is something that I hope we will use to reduce, and to reduce the stress of life, the anxiety, and the depression. The practice of self inquiry, or Atma Vichara, helps one to detach from the streams of unnecessary thoughts and reduces mental clutter. Silence and stillness cultivate mindfulness and enhance emotional well being. You'll also see that there is unity in diversity, as we realize that we are all only the same, whether we are a Caucasian or an African. It's only the surface only there are changes, but inwards we are all the one Atman. And so the just even the concept or the some belief in these teachings helps one to transcend religion, culture, and nationality. Sri Ramana Maharshi emphasized on the universal self, and that there is the one constant in everybody is the Atman, and that is the eternal witness. Once we know that, this promotes harmony and compassion. For we see that the person whom we disagree with also has the same inner being, the same Atman. We just happen to disagree on a few things. But when we go beyond that uh, uh, period of disagreement, we realize that we all have the same values and the same beliefs and the same search for happiness. Realizing the oneness of all beings fosters inclusivity and unity. It will also foster simplicity and non attachment. Friends, Sri Ramana Maharshi advocated simplicity and freedom from attachment. He did not advocate not performing duties or having an active career. In fact, if you all would have come and met him in person, you would have said, be the best engineer that you can, accumulate the best knowledge that you can. But what he would have said is, don't uh, accumulate the knowledge without being attached to the results. So, you should have the same equanimity while you get an A, while, or if you say flunk a paper. Your duty is just to uh, pursue an action in the fullest form, with the fullest energy and endeavor that you can put in. And she also recognize the illusory nature of the desires, and that leads to detachment from the results. So by doing that, you become more confident, you become more not attached. There is no despair or elatement, and you are equanimous through everything that you do in your life. And in that way, you reduce the mental anxiety, the mental clutter, the fear of failure, and you can be the best person that you can. You can answer present the best version of yourself. Non attachment fosters lasting peace and inner freedom. This, friends, also leads to stress management and inner peace. Maharshi said, did not, he said that the fundamental goal of a human being is to attain happiness. He said, in fact, every living being wants to be happy. But he said, where we search for happiness is the, the mistake. When we go around looking for the happiness in the external world, while the true happiness is inside all of us, that is the mistake. While the this is the result of our ego, which is always wants to go out, and then it wants you to do more and more, attain more and more, and you're never contented, and therefore you lead to more uh, unhappy versions of yourself. While the true happiness is within you, within yourself. While you realize that and then pursue happiness, you will be able to get the true inner natural happiness that is fundamental to each one and all of us. And that is your birthright, in fact. You have it. It's only that we don't pay attention to it. It's almost like unless we dig for diamonds going through a lot of dirt, we'll never find. If you go looking for diamonds outside, it's not going to be there. So it's right inside you. So Maharshi's emphasis on silence and meditation cultivates inner peace and harmony. This helps manage academic stress, career uncertainty, and relationship struggles. Silence isn't the absence of noise, but it's a stillness of mind where clarity emerges. Friends, I want to introduce a concept. They on a in a random day we have 60,000 random thoughts. So, for example, like I woke up today, I'm saying, "Oh, I'm Dr. Ramanan. I'm this. I'm in IIT Delhi. I'm going to talk to these bright minds. I hope they like my lecture and this and that. So, and how does this one thought lead to a stream of thoughts? And but the reality is, you're all here, I'm here, I'm speaking without it, right? But the same thing, tomorrow, while you have a task to finish, it just creates one thought after other, and then it takes away your mental clarity. So the whole thing, the whole drama of life is played in the mind. Now, what Ramana Maharshi says is, by paying fundamental attention to these thoughts and saying, to whom is this thought occurring? Then it will say, to me, and then you ask, who is this I? Then slowly the volley of thoughts will go down, and then you will be able to uh, pay attention to your task that you have to do. And this, in fact, has been used by some other schools of thought, including mindfulness. So they found that you can reduce the 40,000 random thoughts to even 20,000. And as you know, the brain is the highest tissue that requires the most amount of glucose and oxygen. It requires, in fact, you would say muscles, right? Some of the buffed up people will say muscle requires the most oxygen. No, it's 3.5 times more uh, uh, energy is required by the brains and the glucose and oxygen, right? So this is my shout out for all you nerds. Okay, so you are truly using the energy in the most appropriate way than all those hulks walking around. Okay, so 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 coming back to what I was saying is like, so there's nothing wrong in utilizing this uh, glucose and energy in the true way, but it's totally wasted on mental clutter, this unnecessary thoughts, so it's just a way of shutting down the unnecessary thoughts at where it begins. Because Maharshi, as we know, I'm going to, as we go along, we'll see that the mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. And the first fundamental thought in that is the I thought. So I am Dr. Ramanan. And it's almost like I don't know if some of you has seen Forrest Gump movie, so that guy will be there in every scene, so it's almost like our mind puts us in every scene, like it may put us in Parliament House, it may put us in the White House, and while even though we are not there, it's just the power of the imagination, and then a story begins in our life, so and that's a total wasted human drama. So, and this way you can also, while practicing a bit of spirituality, you can also pull it back and use it to strengthen your inner sources, and use that. See how fresh you will feel if you two-thirds of your unnecessary thoughts are eliminated in a day. So you'll have so much clarity, so much mental energy and strength. So it's not only just out there kind of a thing, but a truly uh, concept. And that is the essence of our ancient philosophy, the Advaita Vedanta and all. It starts and ends with the individual. It's never meant to be a mass kind of proselytization and show how great we are. The whole, our rishis and all, they were all researchers of their truth, and through their fundamental experience, they wanted to make us all, they left behind the research that they had done so that we can all uh, follow it and be better in our lives. So coming back again, the when we are practicing these teachings of that there are no others, the Advaita is like where you and others are the same. The so there is it brings about a universal connection. So, non duality teaches that all life is interconnected and the self is universal. So, the fundamental truth, so as we know, we are all getting one concept today, is that the self, the Atman, you call it whatever, consciousness is universal in each one of them, in each one of us, and it is the witness 24/7. Okay, and and this will inspire each one of you to act with empathy and contribute to larger causes. This will promote inclusivity, equality, and a global harmony in this rapidly changing world. Friends, I mentioned there is nothing wrong in performing action. You should be the highest that you can be in your life. Okay. But what you have to, you will realize is that life is a summation of valleys and peaks. Nobody is going to be in a mountain all her life. You're going to hit a valley, and then how you bounce back quickly and go back to the next mountain is what uh, determines your life story. So, and how do you do that? And one of the ways you do it is by performing a detached an action. What our ancient saints have said, nishkamya karma. So you perform actions without being attached to the success or failures of the action, so that you're not elated or you are despondent, and so that you can face both, and just to say how true this is. Recently there was a Wall Street crash, and as you know, Warren Buffett is one of the biggest uh, investor, and he quoted a old to how to face this changing. He said you have to be smiling in both defeat, and he quoted a Robert Frost poem, which most of us read in our school days. So, and that is the truth everywhere. We always are going to face ups and downs, but when we practice detachment in action, and again, it is not like, oh, I don't care how this um, action comes. You will be a better performer of action. Ramana Maharshi woke up at 3 in the morning, even though he was the highest teacher, to cut vegetables, clean the grains for his devotees. You'll get more energy, you'll have the more inclination to perform action, because what is destined in your action, you're going to perform, whether we want it or we don't want it. So he advocated action without any attachment to the results. And friends, as I say, this will help you excel while reducing anxiety about outcomes. It will encourage resilience and emotional well being. The next concept is simplicity and contentment. The Friends, we and most of you will, as you whoever goes west or even in India, you're all going to find a term called ESG, environmental sustainable group. And again, that's just a word for how we live with nature, how we take a little bit less of the nature, don't plunder it, and leave behind some for our children and grandchildren, right? So, how do we do that? Because otherwise, unless there is a fundamental inclination or belief, we're not going to do that. So, the concepts of simplicity in living and contentment will help us all get these concepts. We will realize as we go along that there is tremendous power in simplicity. Like Steve Jobs was very fond of saying that the most simple devices made in the most pure concept are the ones that do well, instead of having 1,000 products and which you don't perform well. You can see which companies last and which companies survive. So you can see that there is tremendous power to the power of one, of simplicity and doing it very well. True happiness comes from appreciating what we have, because wherever we are, we the happiness as is internal. You may just go to you could enjoy even a terrible movie because with you're fundamentally happy, and you go with three or good friends, right? Versus you go alone, and even the best movie will appear boring. So it's the same. So these are small examples that prove that how an attached and happiness is inner. So now the external sources can just give us some glimpses, but the the power to be happy, unhappy, dejected, despondent is within you. Nobody can hurt you, as they say, unless you allow them to hurt, right? So, and why is that? Because the whole power, the whole shakti is inside you, and that is what all these teachings make a better version of you. And so again, of course, we freeze from the cycle of materialistic desires. Now, friends, again, I like to point out that I'm not against, and again, nobody true is not against anybody having fulfilling their needs. But what is you'll again, I'd like to give you the example. You all like mangoes, right? Being the true Indians, right? So the first mango, Alfonso, how wonderful it tastes, right? The second one, maybe a little bit. The third one, oh my God. The fourth one, you'll have a tummy ache. Now, if there was a thing of that each object gave you the same happiness each time it came, you should be four times happy while eating the fourth mango, while not being like you'll almost the fifth mango, if somebody brings, you'll even beat them up. So again, these are all small inklings to what the happiness you will get with eating the first mango, sharing with your friends, thanking the farmer who grew it. I mean, these are all things that make a better version of ourselves. And that, as you see, that does not take anything away from being an IITN or pursuing a fantastic goal. So just a way of today, I'm just want to help what Dr. Professor Bhupinder Godara is doing is of just showing you all a newer way, but a more dramatic way of seeking happiness, and just finding that hey, there is a new paradigm shift, and that can exist along with you being the best engineers that you can. Doesn't take, and which will really lead to you living dramatic lives. And coming back again, ethical living and compassion. So Maharshi's life embodied humility, compassion, and truthfulness, and it encourages each one of us to practice empathy and build strong relationships with each other based on respect. It promotes self acceptance and emotional healing. For you will all realize that the healing would happen to you and by inner thing. Friends, I'd like to say, being a doctor, I'll tell you. One of the good teachers used to say, after the rounds, we wrote a medicine and say, yeah. So he used to ask, what is the thing that is going to help the patient the heal? So we'll all in the beginning of the career will say, oh, this ventilator, this antibiotics, and so on. And then when we go out, they'll say no. So the healing, all we are doing is we are just showing the patient and promoting the way to heal. The healing is through the patient himself or herself. All we are doing is helping them on the way. So please consider some of these as just adjuncts to your life that will help you to make you are going to do it. We'll only come to you and present you these things, but the day you feel like accepting it and saying, yeah, maybe there is something, and you will see it. These are all scientific experiments which you can replicate, duplicate in your life. The accessibility and universality. Maharshi's teachings are universal, applicable to diverse aspirations. Whether it's a student, entrepreneur, or spiritual seeker, his insights provides uh, practical guidance. It's flexible and adaptable for various phases of life. Friends, as I said again, the only constant is change, and the other bigger constant is you, the inner you. While our things about us change as we go along in life, but you will realize that the what is there inside you, the eternal you, is going to be the one constant. And if we keep working on it while the external world changes, we will be able to adapt easily and be the best version of ourselves. So I'm going to come to the uh, practical applications of his teachings. So, self inquiry is for discovering the true identity. And we know that silence and meditation is for reducing stress. It cultivates simplicity and non attachment for a greater freedom. And it promotes compassion harmony through the realization of the unity. The teachings are the experience of Ramana Maharshi, but they have the root in the ancient Indian wisdom of Advaita Vedanta, which is timeless. This emphasizes on the illusory nature of the world and the importance of self inquiry. Friends, I'd like to spend a few moments on this concept of illusory nature of the world. The No saint denies the existence of the world. The fact is, we are here in IIT, we are having this lecture, and you're all here, and thank you for bearing up with me. But that is not the illusory nature of the world. The 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 world as it is exists and it's truth. But what is illusory is the importance and uh, the power that we give to it. The one fundamental truth in our Vedanta is for uh, a fact to be true, it has to be present in all stages of our day. So, what I mean by that is there are, as you know, the waking state, and then there is the state of the sleep and the state of the deep sleep. Friends, where is this hall when you are in your hostel in deep sleep? Right? It doesn't. It's just a relative existence. So this is for something to be permanently true. It has to be there in both the waking state, in the state of sleep, and in the state of deep sleep. So, but the only thing that is present in all these three stages is you, the observer, the one, the self, the consciousness. The external world is in a state of relative nescience, in the state of sleep and deep sleep. So this is what the saints say, that the world by itself is only relatively true, but it is true when it is accompanied with the true you, true self. So the world without the self is false. The world with you present and practicing all the highest components of teachings and seeing the world for what it is the true. So this is the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, that the the world is the one word to use it is, it's like a mirage. So you see the picture of there is water in the mirage on vision, but can you quench your thirst by drinking that water? No. So it is only a relative truth. But again, what these are concepts which you will get to know as you go along in life. All we are trying to make available to you, that such truths exist, and then you will experience it yourself. You see that the only truth is yourself, your consciousness, and how by becoming a better version of that, you'll be able to live very fundamental happy life. So the philosophy helps guides the seekers to realize the self beyond the mind and ego. The Ramana Maharshi is one of the fundamental teachings. And again, as Professor Godara invited you, um, day after tomorrow evening, 5 to 6:30, I want to talk about a sentinel work of Ramana Maharshi, Truth in 40 Verses. In fact, I wanted to introduce you a little bit to those concepts, but I'm going to keep it for Friday evening. In that, in 40 verses in a sequence, he proves to you how to get beyond the vagrancies of the ego and the mind, and to connect with a deeper self and lead beautiful lives. And in 40 verses, so I don't really did not want to mention those, so that, and I hope some of you, most of you rather, can come and will keep it going very well. So, and so these offer a roadmap from relative ignorance, what we call avidya, to liberation, moksha. And it resembles a very scientific mathematical theorem of sequential spiritual truths, each one building on the previous one. So I'm just going to give you a few concepts which hopefully, and again, he says the definition of reality is that which exists. What in Tamil we call ulladu, that which exists always and shines by itself is reality. Reality is beyond the uh, entrapments of the mind. It is beyond the duality of existence and non-existence. Friends, this our self is metacognized. It shines by its own light, and by following that, you will uh, see how you can bring those concepts of metacognition and self motivation in your own lives. Because I believe some of my colleagues in the West will tell that one of the things they are looking for in bright young minds like you is the self motivation and self and being that to realize your own mistakes and be a metacognizer of kinds. So, everything is all interconnected. The whole play of life is, in a way, will help you to be better versions of yourself, both in the philosophical terms and your material worlds. As I was explaining to you, The world is a relative illusion. Again, world appears real due to the projection of the mind. So, as I was explaining to you, most of us we play the drama of human life. This is in fact a concept of research even in neurosciences. What they find that the 6 billion of us take in the reality and play a human drama, a tape of kinds in our brain. And we look at the same world in 6 billion ways. So that is a fundamental research as well. And so we can see the concept, how the illusion of the world. So like a dream, it vanishes when the self is realized. Friends, again, I'll keep coming back to some terms: the ego and the false reality. Now, uh, Ramana Maharshi, one concept he always emphasized was that the whole external world, that I'm so and so, I'm this, and the whole human drama arises with the arising of the ego every day in the morning. And that is what gives us our relative false identities. And that serves, and it almost plays a big role in how our day goes or is shaped. So, so he said that the ego, the false ego, arises by identifying with the body and the mind. And friends, we give life to this ego by imagining it to be real. When we scrutinize it as with our philosophical ways, we find that it has no reality, but the life is given to it by us, by our thoughts, our insecurities, our false imaginations. So we are better than that. When we take that away from this practice of the inquiry, and again, as what you are been studying, the who am I is where you trace, and where is this ego in your body? Who am I and whence am I? By this spiritual practices, when you contemplate and you trace where the ego is in your body, and also realize that it's almost like a ticker tape flowing in front of you, telling you the next action that you should do. And all that mental clutter, all that insecurities and unnecessary drama that it creates for your lives, just by asking the question to whom this is appearing, and is this real, and where in the body is this false ego is. When you search for that, Ramana Maharshi says, and as we will go deeper on that on Friday, it has no life of its own. It is just an imposter. It's a phantom. It will disappear. And as you go deeper along in your spiritual exercise, you don't even have to keep asking that. With practice and with thing, it'll just, you'll be able to see that, take a step back, and you can see that this illusory thought is going to take over your life and make you unhappy, and you can just nip it at the bud and just go on to the uh, thing that you're doing, pay it full attention, and have good lives. And as I said, the who am I dissolves. It does not only, the word dissolve is very important. Dissolve means it's you almost, uh, you know, um, squishing it with, so that it doesn't arise. Dissolves the ego by tracing it at its roots. It's like, a good gardener, will remove the weed at its roots. You won't just keep coming, plucking leaves after leaves, or branches, because once you take it out at the root, it's gone for good. And friends, again, there are a few concepts. Again, it's for lack of better words and all, it's called the self inquiry. Actually, it is uh, it's an inquiry into the illusion or the non existence of your ego, the phantom ego. And once that is gone, what remains behind is the pure self, like the 3 month old baby, that we were, would smile at anybody in the world, without any, oh, these are rich people, these are poor people, these are this thing, for them, everybody is like them, and everyone is a source of happiness. So we become truly childlike and pursue happiness for the sake of happiness. And uh, and this is this is the most direct and a permanent path to lasting happiness, for only the self can give us happiness. If the mind is turned inward, the ego dissolves. Friends, the good definition of happiness was given by Ramana Maharshi. He said that uh, the, the, the time we are the most happy, we are like the depth of an ocean, where, while you're flying over, you'll see there are no waves. The ocean is uh, just staying still. So then, say I get a thought, I need a new iPhone or something, and then that becomes a ripple, becomes a wave, becomes a bigger wave, bigger wave, till it comes to the beach, to the uh, where people are. And then once I get the thing that cost me the trouble, or the bought the new phone, then it goes back to these insecurities, these thoughts go back to the depth of the ocean again. So what we think is that buying the phone was what gave us the happiness, but actually it was resolution of the insecurity of that wave that just made you so obsessed about getting it. Now you're back, at least temporarily, to a state where you were. So to the depth where you are the most calmest. And then till you put the phone to charge and it didn't charge, or somebody caused a scratch, then you see how again that iPhone will lead to one story after the other. I'm not saying there's no unhappiness inherently in objects, but I hope you get the point. The the true happiness is in winning the poise. They say the person is happiest. The surge of our brain chemicals, dopamine, is just one, like hearing that you got a great job or something. But friends, as you know, the first day of going to job, your happiness is probably not even a tenth of what, say you got a job in, say, Google or something. You're so happy, just that thought. You're not even gone there, entered the building, but the day you physically go in there, your dopamine takes a dive. So the whole happiness, unhappiness is here actually, and I would say is in the spiritual heart, from where all the energy comes, and it's a source of consciousness, and that's what uh, gives light, life to all these uh, the drama of the human life. So Ramana Maharshi again says, if the mind is turned inwards, all we have to do is a fundamental uh, a paradigm shift, where we, instead of looking for happiness outside, just try that and look wherein the happiness is. And you will also, you would have experienced it, in the silence of an early morning, when you're in solitude, or when you come, you say, go to a beautiful mountain top where there is nobody. I mean, how happy you were. You just had you with the experiencer, and you saw how happy, how little we need to experience the true happiness. Because at that time, there was no mind, no ego, that things that distracted us, which cloaks us, which so we are like the true mirror, and the dust that forms on us through the ego is what Ramana Maharshi says to wipe clean so that the true mirror can shine beautifully. Friends, again, as I said, the mind is what projects multiplicity and duality. It tells you stories that then soon we start offering. There is only one reason to love somebody, there are hundreds of reasons to be suspicious and hates the other. And again, this is all the play of the mind. Now, true knowledge dawns when the mind ceases. So, what Ramana Maharshi says is when the Shuddha Manas is the thing that is left behind, when the ego is removed, when it vanishes through our spiritual practices. And that will give you wonderful lives. True knowledge, jnana. This is an experiential form of knowledge. You don't have to take my word, friends. In fact, don't take my word or Professor Godara's words. Try an experience for each one of yourself. The one a great philosopher said Ramana Maharshi was both a saint and a true scientist. Saint for his devotion, for his bhaktas, but a bigger scientist for this Atma Vichara. No, is a scientific experiment. It's a neurocognitive thing, but you can experience for yourself. And once you taste that success, there is no going back. You'll feel eternal and you feel truly happy anywhere in the world. One does not need a temple or a congregation or a gathering. You can practice this teaching anywhere in the world. During your lunch break, during well, in your kitchen waiting for the next good chapati to come. You can see, you can practice it yourself and experience the happiness. It is beyond concepts and intellectual understanding. There is just some basic theory, and as I said, true knowledge is self-luminous. It is an experience, and once you taste it, there is no going back. It will make a better version of each one of all of you. And ego vanishes and only the reality shines. And liberation, as we call, is not a place out there. There are no heavens, no hells. There is only abidance in the self. And that is the true heaven. And again, a little teaser Friday, if you all show up, try to show how you apply the Ulladu Narpadu, the 40 verses in reality in daily life, where you can practice self inquiry with clarity and recognize the illusory nature of the ego and thoughts. And it is persistently questioning, as I said, the source of the false I, the ego, and and then try to rest in the awareness of your true being. Friends, like everything, patience and perseverance is the key, and silence aids in dissolving the ego. Thank you for staying with me so far. I'd like to start summarizing. Self inquiry leads to the dissolution of the ego. In fact, self inquiry is nothing but looking and proving that the imposter ego never existed. It is not the self is something that is found, that was always there. You're not going to discover something new. This is not this is not something alien. This is something which is always there in each one of us. It is there in each one of you. That is the one that is metacognizing what I'm saying today. So while you search for the self, you find that there's nothing like the ego. And they say the ego vanishes because ego is the one that gives us fear. The ego is the one that creates the fear of loss. And Ramana Maharshi was very fond of saying a state of egolessness is a state of fearlessness, for only fear exists in the ego. The true Atman is eternal. The true consciousness is undiluted, pure. It knows nothing like fear. So, again, friends, one more thing that I'm going to say, you can use it as your thing to strengthen your armor of being uh, more fearless. And then by knowing that you are the primal truth, that the self, the Atman consciousness is there, and you're part of something big, something universal and eternal. And true knowledge arises by abiding in as a self. And the the thing I had mentioned in the beginning, that is really not a journey of kinds. The journey starts and ends where it began, and because the seeker, the person that is us, and what we are seeking are the one and the same thing, the better version of ourself, the true self, the consciousness. So it's a process where all multiplicity disappears and you just end as one. And that is the eternal, uh, and what many religions call as moksha, because for such a person there is no coming and going, no fear, as we found. The final words of Ramana Maharshi, whom we call Bhagavan: the self alone is real, and seek within. Grace always supports sincere seekers. Thank you for your attention, and I'm available for any questions. Please um, ask me anything. Thank you. What we are trying to find is, but then we're trying to escape the scourges of the ego, the unhappiness it's causing. So, uh, what when we it appears like the example you said, that we have to in other way people have asked is, when you say that the mind is not true, but don't we use the mind to uh, kill itself, because the self inquiry is a form of where we kill the impure mind. But we start by using the mind. Truthfully, yes, because it's like saying that the body has no existence, but we have to be in the body, take care of it while we are pursuing the this practice. So the one example Ramana Maharshi used is in the like even in the traditional ways, like when they light a funeral pyre, like when you put sticks and somebody is dead body is burnt. They in villages they use a stick to push so that the fire is equal and something, and in the end they throw the stick back into the funeral pyre and it gets burnt. So the mind is something like that. You have to use it in the initial part to redirect the focus towards it, and then the what you'll realize that as the mind, the impure mind, which is based on the ego, and it's fears and the divisions that it creates will slowly start vanishing. And what is left behind is the Shuddha Manas, or the consciousness. And that will start raising. And for that, you don't need it is metacognized. You will just feel how calm, how tranquil, and how the unnecessary thoughts you don't get while pursuing this journey. And then you'll see that everything is the manifestation of the self. So for that, this is also a sequential kind of a spiritual progress. But initially, definitely, you will use the mind. And uh, but but again, there is no contradiction. We are not. It's an open method. We're not trying to fool the method and of the mind and say, tell it stories that it doesn't need to know. Okay? But we have to use um, the surroundings, the things of the world that we are in, to uh, pursue this teaching. In the olden days, the saints had to go to a forest and be away from family. But fortunately, we don't have to. By fundamentally reasoning, you can do it anywhere. Just a process. Eh, am I clear? Thank you. Yeah. But again, all these uh, doubts and controversies are because you are still in the plane of the mind. Okay, once you will, while you progress on this mind, beyond the vagrancies of the mind, you will find you're going into a deeper plane. And at that time, all these contradictions don't appear true at all. Yes. Why do the your question is, why do the thoughts stop? Yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah. Well, the thoughts are nothing but they come from our ego. So these are projections, external projections. And by paying keen attention to the to the source of the thoughts, they will slow down, and they eventually will stop. Again, your thing is, like, uh, should thoughts are useful too. Is that what you are trying to say? In Yeah, okay. Because thoughts are have no life of their own. Let me explain to you this. So suppose this pen, right? So I'll say it's made by Luxor. Then it's made by which country? This, whether this has ink. So these are, you see, are thoughts, right? One after the other. But if you stop it at the fundamental thing by just accepting this and not thinking about it, the thoughts would slow down. So 5 or 6 unnecessary thoughts would have gone down. So, uh, so thoughts are just like a think of them like a ticker tape going in front of your thing. So they are not, they are mental energy consuming objects. So a relatively thought free mind is what is an objective anywhere. So you can be fully observed in what you're doing. When you would have seen those epiphany, like when you're writing some a big paper, when you are able to concentrate and crowd out all the thoughts, what a beautiful thing that results. So thoughts are as nothing. They don't have a life of their own. They take life from the energy our mind gives it. So that's what Ramana Maharshi says. So you have to reduce thoughts. Thoughts are not good for you. Too many thoughts. Because only in a thought free, silent state, you will be able to see the true silence. You'll be able to experience the true joy of your inner being. The thoughts are just like clutter and dust covering everything up, preventing you from enjoying the true consciousness that's inside you. Yes, very good. Um, the that is the Maya of life. Okay, again, it's a whole concept that the uh, it's the same God created Maya and these thoughts so that you can so feel the need to remove them and it, uh, so it's like Ramana Maharshi used to say that in knowledge the God has also put ignorance. So it seems like two different concepts, but when you know that you don't know, that is the first step of learning, right? So again, but that's the way thoughts are. That is what creates the the and the thoughts and all are because of our age old vasanas from birth and recurrent previous experiences of life. And so any action that you do with a thought will always leave behind a seed for another thought. So thoughts will always be there. So it's all, yeah. Yes, the origin is when we are think of the newborn baby. It's born without an ego, and the end is again you get back to being like childlike. So the one thing I like to tell you is like we're all scared that when there are no thoughts, will this the the state of where we are in the self, it'll be a state of blank. No, it'll be a state of immense clarity, purity, where you'll be able to do all your activities, with with more perfection than without the invading thoughts in between. That like will I be able to do this or this thing, or somebody else will do better than me. These are thoughts you can do without, right? Or stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. At least we can start with eliminating such thoughts. And again, you don't have to pump them with false positive thoughts, because the inner self, that is you, is already very positive, and it is going to guide you. So just performing that thing in the absence of snipping the bad thoughts at its roots is the best that you can do, at least initially. And later on you will see that by itself you'll have less thoughts, you'll speak less, you'll be more silent, uh, you know uh, compared to what you were a year before, for right reasons, man. Yeah. Yes, but try it out, my friend. You'll be surprised. Ego is the most covered. No, you just start like see. My question to you is: you went to the gym, right? The first day, so were you able to bench press 50 pounds, 100 pounds? You started with a 2 pound, 5 pound dumbbell, right? All I'm saying you is start with half a minute. Try to bring your awareness every day. 2, 3 times a day. Bring your awareness inwards. Start with half a minute, 1 minute. There are the beauty of Ramana Maharshi's method is there are it's only sincerity. There is no written rules that you have to sit in one place, you have to play such and such music, you have to put this asana, uh, and have to do it for 30 minutes. No, start with half a minute, and then you'll see you'll be able to do it for a minute, 2 minutes, and then anywhere in your life, day to day. Because I assure you one thing, the ego is a coward, it's an imposter. Anything that is not true will not will not be courageous. So the only thing we have not done is till now have faced it, and have looked it up in the eye and said, you know what, you're an imposter. And then where are you in my body? Once you do that, Ramana Maharshi says it will vanish. And then you just, all I ask you is do it for 30 seconds, do it for a minute. There is no, this is not, this is a marathon of sorts. You just have to start somewhere and just trust the process. And then your results will yourself take you more and more into it. I assure you that. Thank you. Excellent. Wow. Wow. Want to mention what he asked. There is a Chinese saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, right? So, all I am asking you is just try that. Just somewhere you have to start. Okay. And I assure you one thing that, and I hope you didn't see me like a proselytizer or something. We want to just see if we can help you. The whole this Ramana Maharshi's whole teachings are experiential. Friends, I'll tell you, without the ashram having branches in many countries and all, we devotees are the practitioners of his teachings from 123 countries, including mainland China and all the way to Middle East, and of course the European countries. They come to the ashram just to practice the teaching. So this is the most. It's an experiential form of thing where the results you are going to see. What I mean is, if you are able to get closer to the self, become a better version of yourself, is what will give me and Professor Godara the most happiness, friends. That's the whole thing. We're not trying to. Um, we're just trying to make you unlearn all your vasanas and the the wrappings of the ego. So just asking you to connect with the true consciousness which is within each one of you. Okay, thank you.